Welcome to this presentation on person-centered care and activity services. We will explore best practice care resources in activity services designed to meet the needs and interests of people experiencing dementia-related illness. My name is Elaine Dempsey, and this presentation is hosted by the California Culture Change Coalition. The California Partnership to Improve Dementia Care is currently facilitated by the California Culture Change Coalition under Contract 13-20555 with the California Department of Public Health and funded by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Are you familiar with the story of the McCormick daughters and the holiday ham? The youngest daughter says to her mom, "Mama, why is it that we cut 6 inches off of this ham before putting it in the oven?" To which the young mother says, "I have no idea. Let me ask my mom." They go in the next room and she says, "Mama, why is it that we cut 6 inches off of this ham before putting it in the oven?" And her mother can't recall either. They said, "Let's call Grandma." They do. They call the grandmother and say, "Grandma, why is it that we cut 6 inches off of this ham before putting it in the oven?" To which the grandmother quickly replied, "Well, that's all the bigger the oven was." And just as these daughters who maintained a tradition that lacked current relevance, we might say the same is true of the activity calendar programs that have existed for decades, just because that's the way we've always done them. Which leads us into our learning objectives for this webinar. We're going to start talking about putting the person before the situation or illness, before the symptom and the prognosis. Then go into understanding a little bit about the dementia disease process, followed by knowing our residents, doing a thorough assessment. We'll talk about creating an engaging environment and cultivating best practice programming to meet residents where they are. Then, implementation of activity as intervention. And lastly, developing a person-centered care plan. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Part 1. Person-centered care. Person-centered care begins with getting to know the person, one's life stories, their preferences, routines, their choices, how they move through the day, ways they demonstrate independence, and ways they experience the moments of life, such as joy or pain or sadness. Person-centered care recognizes the person before the illness or situation. I am not my room and bed number. I am not my prognosis, and I am not the hip replacement in 39B. Within person-centered care, we recognize the importance of gathering detailed information to better understand the person's history, to accommodate for the routines and the preferences and how they move through the day. We want to access information about personal mood changers, such as food or music or belongings, things that provide comfort. This is also our opportunity to create a connection, to have a communication, be present to the resident. Throughout this process, we are shifting our perspective and stepping into the resident's world. The resident's brain is changing, and as a result, so is their perspective of their environment, as well as their perception of who they are in that space. So in person-centered care, we enter their world. Validation. One of the ways in which we connect people with dementia is through validation, which is a method of communicating with residents in their world. Naomi Fail is the founder of Validation Training and the premier resource for this communication approach. And what I love about this method is that with dignity and complete centered presence, it simply acknowledges the space and experience the resident is in that moment. Please watch Naomi Fail in this video where she beautifully and masterfully creates a communication and connection with Gladys Wilson. Then go to the Memory Bridge website for more information on this program that connects people with dementia to family, friends, and others in their community. Every time I see this video, I see and learn something new. Enjoy.
When people are very old and deteriorated and no one enters their world and they're just sitting there, they will withdraw inward more and more. And their desperate need for connection is all now inside. And if a person is all alone, even if they're very, very deteriorated, there's a longing for this kind of closeness. Mrs. Wilson, hello. You want me to sit? Can you see me good? Gladys Wilson is a wonderful example of a person who is in the phase of repetitive motion, where people use movements, repetitive movements, because they don't have any more speech or very little speech, but they have human needs that need to be expressed. You're crying. You're crying. You have a tear right here in your face. You have a little pain. You don't want me to touch you. You're very sad. Can you see me? Is it scary? Are you afraid? And if this person sits with their eyes closed, rocking back and forth, and maybe there's a tear coming down, there's a need there. Here. There's a little tear that's coming out. Do you feel it? You feel a little tear? If you gently use touch, and I touched Gladys Wilson for the fingertips right here on the cheek, is where the mother usually touches a child. If you touch an infant there, it looks up, and every cell remembers where it was touched by the mother. And often that person knows, even if they can't say a word at that moment, they won't talk, or they don't want to talk, but there's a communication. And that person is no longer alone. Can you let me in a little bit? You think? Just a little? You think I could be with you and Jesus for a minute? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. I used music, because when speech is gone, music, especially with Gladys Wilson, it was religious music, because there's emotion tied to it and safety tied to it. So I used her old church songs. Jesus loves me, yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me, the Bible tells me so. What I did was, when she moved, I moved with her. And when I was singing, because she didn't sing with me, so I matched the intensity of my voice to the intensity of her movement. And pretty soon, for a split second, we became one person. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. So at one point, when she got very quiet and very peaceful, and my voice became very quiet as hers and very peaceful, and my breathing slowed to her breathing, she pulled me to her, and I moved with her. And for her, at that moment, I believe I was a symbol of her mom. Can you open your eyes now? Do you see me? Feel safe and warm? Yes? Can you sing with me? He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the mothers and the fathers. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got The breakthrough doesn't happen every time. The person will not always open their eyes and look at you. But if you keep trying and you keep centering yourself and really look at that person and really mirror their movements, maybe not this time, but the next time you come, you'll have a communication. You feel safe. You feel safe? Yeah. With Jesus? Yeah. And me?
So much of what I know about dementia care I learned from studying the work of Naomi Fail and Tina Fey, and a few other qualified professionals. In Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants, she states that there is only one rule in improvisational comedy or theater, and that is that you must always respond with yes and. Any other answer ends the dialogue and as a result the opportunity to connect and continue the communication. This is also true when working with residents with dementia. If we enter the resident space with yes and, the conversation continues. For example, when a resident tells you that Stevie Wonder is sending a car for the concert that night, we might answer with, yes, and what time is that happening? And, what will you wear? And, can I go too? Person-centered care responds to each individual uniquely, respectfully, and with great humanity. Part 2. In this section, we'll talk briefly about the dementia disease process as it relates to the resident's ability to meaningfully engage in the world around. Within the dementia disease process, the brain is changing. As a result, all of the functions related to the brain are changing, including loss of identity, shift in behavior, challenges to thought process and memory, impaired communication, and altered expression. There are over 50 types of dementia-related illness. Some of the more common forms of dementia include these. Alzheimer type is the most common form and actually the fourth leading cause of death in adults today. Vascular or multi-infarct dementia results from multiple strokes in the brain and impairs cognitive functioning. This is the second most common form of dementia. Parkinson's is a progressive disorder of the central nervous system and it affects more than 1 million Americans. It's characterized by stiffness in the joints, challenges with speech. Only some Parkinson's patients develop dementia. Crutchfield-Jakob disease, also known as mad cow disease. This is a rare bacterial disorder that results in rapid memory loss, involuntary movements, and sometimes blindness. Huntington's disease is an inherited disease that usually begins at midlife and gradually affects the mind and body, exhibiting with involuntary arm and leg and facial movements. Lewy body dementia often exhibits with psychosis, hallucinations, and delusions, and it has many characteristics similar to Alzheimer's disease. Pick's disease is a form of dementia characterized by behavioral changes such as a deterioration in social skills and changes in personality. Additionally, we see dementia related to late-stage cancer and dementia related to late-stage AIDS. It is important to know and differentiate between chronic dementia and acute delirium. All health professionals should have this awareness, and especially those of us who work with residents on a daily basis. Within chronic dementia, there are changes in memory, reasoning, and personality characteristics that are gradual and progressive, sometimes happening over a period of months or years. Causes of chronic dementia are non-reversible and related to physiological changes in the brain cells, the degradation of the brain cells, and reduced functioning abilities within these cells. Basically, the brain cells are dying. With an acute dementia or delirium, there are changes in memory, reasoning, and personality characteristics, but this time they're happening over a relatively short period of time, sometimes hours, days, or weeks. Delirium has many causative factors. Some common ones you may be familiar with include change in medication, dehydration, a urinary tract infection, worsening medical conditions, or stressors such as room changes. So in review, delirium has a rapid onset of fluctuating behaviors, whereas dementia has a very slow progression of changing behavior. Within delirium, there are perceptual disturbances, especially visual, and lethargy, changes in sleep cycle, and emotional reactions such as tearfulness, fearfulness. They might even be irritable or aggressive. The progression of dementia is usually referred to in stages: early stage, middle stage, and late stage. Within the early stage of dementia, the person is starting to experience memory loss, confusion about directions and money management. They may experience a loss of spontaneity and initiative. You'll see repetitive actions and hear repetitive statements. In the mid-stage, there's an increasing memory loss, confusion, shorter attention span, difficulty recognizing close friends and family. There'll be an increase in wandering, and they may see and hear things that are not there. In the later stage, they are unable to recognize family members or even themselves in the mirror. There's a loss of weight even though there's been a proper diet, and the capacity for self-care has diminished. Symptoms often exhibit as challenging behaviors, and this may be a way in which the resident communicates. Some common behaviors include resisting care, obscene or abusive language, pacing, excessive wandering, eating inappropriate materials, socially inappropriate sexual behavior, exit seeking, urinating and defecating in inappropriate places, hoarding, poor safety awareness, attention-seeking behavior, wearing too many or too few clothes, and repetitious movements or vocalizations. There is always a reason for a person's behavior. My favorite clinicians are the ones that have that finely tuned intuitive sense. They have a knowledge of the person, and they're able to assimilate this information into what it is the person might be trying to communicate. Some aspect of this person's behavior or conversation will inform you of the problem or the need. F329, unnecessary drugs, has been a catalyst for skilled nursing facilities' attention to exploring non-pharmacologic interventions for residents exhibiting challenging behaviors. Part 3. Knowing our resident. In order to provide person-centered care, we have to know the person. This involves conversation, observation, and a study of routines and patterns. Let's do a little exercise. If you will, create a list of 10 words that describe who you are in the world. Okay, you might pause the webinar to continue, but when you've made the list, then either delete or scratch off one word at a time. Note how it feels to lose each part of your identity in this process. This becomes progressively more difficult as your identity disappears. Now, to everyone around you, you are still the same. You've got the same history, the same connections, the same experiences, the same life journey. But in this moment, to you, you're losing recall of many parts of who you are and who you have been. Unlike this exercise, our residents do not get to select which parts of their identity they will lose first. Still, I think it's a worthy effort to explore the process of losing that sense of self. A resident's loss of recall about their identity is one of the reasons it's so challenging to learn who this person is and who they have been. Who does the person connect with? Family, friends, significant people? Learn about each resident's history, their interests, routines, occupations, their hobbies, areas of service, spiritual practice. Gather information about mood changers such as comfort food or music or belongings. Have an understanding of their tolerance and adaptability. Just get a sense of what does a day in the life look like for this person. Do you have a favorite comfort thing? A favorite piece of clothing or food or object? It's good to know these things about our residents. I actually like knowing this about everyone I encounter. And for the record, should we run into each other down the road, mine is a simple bowl of chocolate ice cream. We've talked about validation and entering the resident's world. We've talked about the disease process and changes and challenges for the person. And we've reviewed the importance of learning about each person. In Part 4, Creating an Engaging Environment, we will review ways in which the environment can support the resident's independence and encourage engagement. Here's an exercise called These Things I Need. Imagine that tomorrow you will be a resident in a skilled nursing community, perhaps one where you work or visit. Your suitcase is packed. Imagine further that in this moment you have the clarity, capacity, organization, and foresight to identify things that will help you to feel comfortable and oriented to this new situation in life. Write a list of things you will need to have with you to live comfortably. What people do you need, or what do you need from people? This is going to be home for you, so what do you need to have around you or with you? What do your surroundings look like? If you're watching this webinar with others, share your list. I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Let's start with the physical environment. Now think about your own living space. How are you most comfortable? What do you need around you? Because we want to create that space, a space with ample light, low noise, safe from harm, something that's familiar and comfortable in all of the home-like ways. We want to ensure there's a safe place to walk or roam both inside and outside. Think about your social environment and when you are most comfortable in community situations. Sometimes I just want someone to call me by the name I choose, and people who speak to and with me, not over me. I like to be around people who know I have been successful and I take pride in my work and personal life, and people who know what I do and do not like, such as chocolate ice cream. Have I mentioned that already? Our residents want the same thing. They want people who deeply care about them and see them not as a task on a list to check off. They want people who let them do what they can for themselves to the fullest extent possible. People who know that this person could be their mother, brother, sister, father. G. Allen Power wrote a book called Dementia Beyond Disease, where he states, "For a person making the journey from cognition into emotion, the statement rarely means, 'I want to go to the house at 35 Elm Street with the green shutters and the rose garden in front.' What it more often means is, 'The place I am right now does not have the attributes that feel like home to me,' and those missing attributes generally reside in the domains of well-being." It's important to create spaces that encourage a resident to engage in the world around them in ways that are meaningful and significant and of value. Now, this may not seem like the traditional activity role, in that we often think of activity as groups on a calendar. But this is exactly the point. This is how we move through the world routinely. It's not always about attending a structured group, but more often about opportunities to connect and to be. Creating an engaging environment is something that everyone can do. Here are some more examples of ways in which individuals meaningfully connect with others, with pets, in nature, and in play. Many of the newest communities and renovated facilities have been dedicated to creating comfortable and engaging living areas. They are less institutional, with an absence of hallways and instead rooms that open into shared living areas. The effort to create a space like home extends in the daily routines as well. If a resident would like an omelet or pancakes and it isn't the meal time, then the care provider can go with the resident to the open kitchen and together make the food desired. Just like home. The environment should provide purposeful places to wander. Place intentional objects and potential destinations in the wandering path, such as a mailbox or a bus or a taxi stop. Put mail in the mailbox. I've seen communities with old cars to tinker on and boats to sand. Create a safe space for garden or nature walks. More examples of comfortable, purposeful places to roam. Isn't this a great old truck? Several communities have had success getting old cars or trucks donated for residents who were professional or weekend mechanics. Here you can see more areas to rummage where residents can search and find things, like a community dresser filled with found clothes, a jewelry box with jewelry to sort and untangle, coins or playing cards to sort, a basket to rummage through, and tasks to complete. It helps to have access to items to sort, compartmentalize, and manipulate that are age-appropriate and of interest to the people. Work it out with the evening team members to return the items they find so that the people can search again another day. Aroma can play an important role in creating a mood or comfort space. Consider having an oil diffuser or other aroma item. Cooking and baking, bread machines, and popcorn are all wonderful ways of creating an engaging home-like environment. Part 5. Program Design. This is an exciting time to be a part of activity services because there's so much push and support for breaking away from the traditional activity calendar programs. Activity services still include planning and facilitation of groups, scheduled one-to-one visits, support of self-directed activity, and the production of special events. However, in this section, we're going to look at some interesting person-centered care-based models for activity service program design. Within our best efforts to meaningfully, purposefully, and happily engage residents, let's stop for just a moment and think about ways in which most healthy adults pursue happiness. Dr. Roger Walsh identified the following 8 areas of cultivating happiness: exercise, diet, time in nature, contribution and service, relationships, relaxation and stress management, recreation, and religion and spirituality. After the assessment, and after we come to know the people we are serving and have created an engaging environment, then we begin this process of developing programs and opportunities that best meet the needs of each person living there. Think about this from the resident's perspective, needs, and interests. Some of the elements of programming include opportunities that support the pursuit of happiness and the desire for comfort and security, ones that are meaningfully and purposefully engaging, programs that reflect the assessed interest of each resident, as well as ones that support health and well-being. Regulatory organizations want to know that we have programs that include physical, social, cognitive, expressive, and spiritual domains. There are many program models that create opportunities that incorporate these domains, but in very non-traditional ways. The Chaparral House in Berkeley, California has a remarkable approach to maintaining a large number of program opportunities throughout the day with activity and expressive arts professionals, a volunteer coordinator and trainer, and an extraordinary number of volunteers who come consistently and work with residents routinely. Genesis Healthcare Programs, under the direction of Sharon Nichols, Susan Michener, and Ann Richard, developed a person-centered program approach called Recreation Service Language 2014, and they've allowed us to include those program concepts in this presentation. What I love about their program design is that they use language that is commonly used in reference to ordinary activity and daily routines, with a glorious absence of clinical titles. It is safe to say that I have not ever called a friend and said, "Hey, what you doing? Do you want to have a sensory integration?" On the other hand, I am quick to make that call to a friend and meet to catch up a bit, to connect. Connecting is the most common activity. Connections may be with people or pets or objects. Learn how each person chooses to connect to the world around them. Within those connections, we have the opportunity to be present and go with the person. If he or she is unable to communicate clearly, be attentive to the emotion and the rhythm of the conversation and the possible intention. In addition to those one-to-one moments, connections also include intergenerational activities, special events, holiday celebrations, pet therapy, reading groups, holiday groups, sporting events or tailgate parties. The list goes on and on. The Scholars programs incorporate intellectual or educational sessions focused on learning. Classes may include learning a new gadget or a game, building and hobby programs, DIY and fix-it classes. I've seen programs develop a university format for course participation and completion. Tailor the programs to the residents' attention span and level of ability. Georgia O'Keeffe stated, "I found I could say things with color and shape that I couldn't say in any other way, things I had no words for." We talked earlier about the stages of dementia, and so it's good to look for ways to provide these opportunities to residents so they can best participate. For example, people in the earlier stages of their dementia process might be able to participate in painting with watercolors, acrylics, classes, different styles of painting such as Impressionism or modern art, or even quilting and clay and pottery, needlework, digital photography, found art projects, a singing group, playing an instrument, being a part of a drum circle, drama programs, sand tray, and open studio in preparation for a presentation or gallery event. Residents in the later stage of the dementia process will likely respond to their favorite song. They may tap along with music, be a part of sensory expressions, story listening. This is a good opportunity to encourage you, if you have not already, to see the documentary Alive Inside and become familiar with the Music and Memory Project. Another independent film to see is called Still Dreaming. It's about the residents of the Lillian Booth Actors Home who decided to produce a Shakespeare play. Please add these to your must-see list. Keeping it sharp. Brain fitness has become a popular activity and booming industry. Some programs that might be included for residents in the earlier stages of the dementia process include trivia, brain fitness games, reminiscence, discussions, baking and cooking, bingo, cards, Montessori for seniors programs, tech time, YouTube reminiscence programs like a virtual hike and virtual travel. People in the later stages of their dementia process may respond to individualized music such as the iPod Project, or one-to-one reminiscent conversation, reading, and just being. Health and well-being, which includes understanding and managing living with chronic conditions, looking good, feeling good, stress management, wellness, pain management, and spa-type activities. It may also include experiences that increase radiance and enthusiasm, exuberance, energy, strength, balance, liveliness, just overall feel-goodness. Additional opportunities include fitness, gardening, spa and salon programs, massage, tai chi, stretching, yoga, dance and movement, nutrition and fitness programs. Residents with more cognitive challenges might also enjoy spa and salon time, assisted movement, music, multisensory activities, massage, comfort, and connection. Within the sacred spaces, the possibilities are limitless. It may include church, temple, or mosque services, hymn sing, inspirational music, rosary, prayer and relaxation, Bible study, or reading. Or it may be finding a quiet place to be. It could be gardening or music. It needs to be how the resident finds and holds sacred space. Spiritual reminiscence. We help residents who have dementia connect with their spirituality through music, prayer, nature, laughter and joy, touch, affection, and empathic presence. These are important ways in which we can help residents stay in touch with the core of their spiritual beings. Helping residents connect with their spirituality with narrative reminiscence. McKinley and Trevitt used spiritual reminiscence to help enhance meaning in the life for people with dementia. The researchers found that Leading small groups of spiritual reminiscent activities helped residents with dementia connect with the meaning in their lives and also helped them to connect with each other in caring ways. Reminiscence activities emphasizing narration are about giving residents the opportunity to tell the story of their lives, their loves, their histories. Spiritual reminiscence can be an opportunity for residents with mild to moderate dementia to tell a story that emphasizes meaning in life and helps them connect through narrative with their spiritual dimension. Other researchers, Wu and Ku, found that by implementing a 6-week spiritual reminiscence intervention, measures of hope, life satisfaction, and spiritual well-being of people with mild and moderate dementia could be significantly improved. Facilitators of these small groups could include IDT members such as clergy, nurses, and therapists. At your service, or giving back. Many people maintain a lifelong love of being of service to others. This is a healthy way to maintain independence, joy, connectedness, and meaning. And it does not have to stop. In fact, feeling needed is an excellent way to support the feeling of contributing, helping, giving, and making a difference. Some of my favorite programs have been the PB&J Club, where they make sandwiches for the local homeless in the community, or the hospitality group that makes gift bags for the newest residents. I've also seen some pretty incredible intergenerational programs teaming up seniors with their favorite toddler for a good book. Time in nature. In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. Those are the words of John Muir. Time outside is necessary for well-being and enjoyment. This may include walking or working in the garden, connecting with people and pets outside, exercise and fitness outside, bird watching, lawn games, lawn tasks such as sweeping or raking, washing a car, having a barbecue or a picnic, or simply being. Life review programs celebrate each person's journey. A resident's ability to contribute to the recall of their life may be shifting. Still, it's worth exploring through questions and reminiscing activities with photos, music, albums, cookbooks, and so on. StoryCorps, which is affiliated with National Public Radio, has a brilliant audio interview format. You could set up intergenerational interviews or coordinated programs with a local student group. More on StoryCorps. StoryCorps has a memory loss initiative called Commemorate, where communities can use this to record stories of the residents who have memory loss. This is a person-centered activity that can help residents connect with the meaning and purpose of life while narrating stories that will help them preserve their legacy. Look them up at storycorps.org. Linda Butner writes, in Simple Pleasures, multisensory programs designed to be age-appropriate and individualized for the resident have been successful tools in reducing isolation, diffusing agitated behavior, providing meaningful opportunities that engage and serve as a way of connecting the resident to the staff and/or family member. Another successful program model has been the Montessori for Seniors program. This program is modeled after the Montessori experiential education programs for children, and the success is based around the tasks and objects being familiar to the person's life story. Avoid the use of children's toys and activities. Evaluate the level of assistance needed to ensure a meaningfully engaging experience. The Wind Down program is designed for those residents exhibiting increased anxiety and confusion in the early evening hours. It's one of the most successful programs I've seen for assisting residents to de-escalate and ease into the evening hours. Some sessions include using a small, quiet space, creating a spa-like surrounding with lowered lights, aroma diffusers, soft music, and hand massage. Residents attending this program should stay as long as tolerated. and until their care partner is able to assist them on with their evening routine. The three-tier program design breaks away from the monthly calendar mold and works around the routines of the day within the community. This includes scheduled programs structured around the meals, the groups, and the activities of daily living, and then program titles that are umbrella names that can be more specific on a daily basis. The second tier are the activities on the move. They are designed for residents who are wandering, they're in motion, usually with intention to be or go somewhere. So these grab-and-go kits are ready and accessible to go with them. The third tier are the activity interventions. These individualized, prepared, selected activity kits are used to redirect a resident's exhibiting challenging behavior. Each of these program ideas and models reflects the changes in the interpretive guidelines for FTAG 248 that recognizes a departure from the traditional activity programs and incorporates the need for increased attention to daily routines, activity preferences, and adult activity patterns prior to admission. Part 6. Activity as Intervention. Deepak Chopra wrote, "Instead of thinking outside of the box, get rid of the box." In addition to breaking from the convention of any boxes we create, all of these tools we have for assisting are of no use to us when they are in a box. All of these creative ideas for activity and intervention, they are of no use when they're in the box. For example, a program design that was in progress at one dedicated dementia program began at the change of shift. The residents got up from their seats and table, closed their project, grabbed their coat and bag off the wall, and began a walk outside as the shift change was happening. Upon return, the care providers were dressed in casual clothes instead of scrubs. The aroma of bread, followed by dinner, permeated the hall. They began a pre-meal activity routine that led into dinner. This process seemed to assist the residents in making that change, that shift into the evening hours. Activity as intervention. At this point, we will review person-centered non-pharmacologic interventions that will help to decrease such problems as falls, aggression, exit seeking, anxiety, agitation, impaired communication, social withdrawal, and cognitive decline. Get him into activities. What does it mean when your colleagues say, "Get him into activities," because he's falling or eloping or agitated? Well, let's take falls, for example. How can engagement in activities decrease the incidence of falls? Some falls occur because residents are agitated. What activities do we have that decrease agitation? Music is a simple but elegant non-pharmacologic intervention that decreases agitation. There is meaning and purpose in the service we provide that contributes to the safety and well-being of residents. Laughter. Research shows very positive links between humor and health in dementia. In addition to the benefits of laughter on the immune system, the cardiovascular system, anxiety, and pain, studies show behaviors such as verbal and physical aggression and wandering are improved using therapeutic laughter interventions. Residents shown here are involved in laughter yoga. Cognitive stimulation. There is consistent evidence that cognitive stimulation or engagement in activities can enhance cognition and social functioning. There is emerging evidence that cognitive stimulation can improve quality of life and communication. Generally, these programs are carried out by trained staff with a small group of 4 or 5 people and a desired outcome as a treatment modality. There was consistent evidence from multiple trials that cognitive stimulation programs benefit cognition in people with mild to moderate dementia over and above any medication effects. Art, memories, and verbal fluency. Researchers Young, Tischler, Hulbert, and Kamek studied the impact that making and viewing art has on people with dementia. During sessions led by an art therapist, participants were involved in art making and art viewing. They spent 30 minutes viewing art in a gallery and were asked questions such as, "Can you describe this painting in one word?" And "What colors do you notice?" The authors note that more research is needed, but the data from this study hints at possible improvements in verbal fluency and stimulation of lifetime memories. Activity in communication. Due to the communication challenges within the dementia disease process, activity engagement can be a vital tool for trying to understand what a resident is needing. Every behavior is a communication. Every conversation has intent. Listen to the rhythm or frequented words or emotion. And there's comfort in the familiar. There's a communication and a comfort simply in being present. Being in the moment. This is worth repeating as it is a part of every interaction we have. It is through validating a resident's experience and stepping into his or her reality, centering around all the possible means of communication, including verbal, rhythmic, repetitive, and behavioral, that we can humanely assist residents and make a connection. In other words, being present, being in the moment. A quick review of some non-pharmacologic interventions. Change in body temperature, going outside or holding a cold or hot beverage, or use of a fan. Aromas such as lavender for calm and citrus for increased energy and alertness. Pets, plants, children. Comfort food, art and music as expression. Knowing what a person's favorite song is. And activity for diversion. Having those intervention kits quickly accessible. Some interventions will work better than others. Part of the process is experimenting to find out what works. We have a better chance by knowing the residents, knowing their likes and dislikes, motivators, and routines. It is important to communicate what has worked and what has not worked so well with everyone on the care team. This leads us into the very important section on the participation in and development of each person's plan of care. Part 7. Traditionally, we see problems such as these care planned by the interdisciplinary team. While these problems are important, necessary, and consistent with the MDS phenomena of interest, we need to spend some time imagining how we can promote person-centered care and dignity as we develop our IDT care plans. Let's look first at some of our common undignified ways of planning care. In our eagerness to solve problems, we sometimes reduce people to the behaviors that manifest. However, when we do this, we reduce their humanity. Who among us wants to be reduced to that particular behavior others find troubling? Are you often late for work? Are you a couch potato? Does your office resemble a cluttered closet? Do you find yourself overusing certain phrases some find offensive? Let's rethink the way we identify other people's problems. No one wants to be reduced to spitting, cursing, and hitting. Just as no one wants to be known as the late one or the office mess. Think holistically. This means that we do not reduce the person to the parts of the whole. We consider the whole person who has a body, mind, and spirit. If we think of the whole person, we would not have a care plan that says, cursing at staff related to dementia. Cursing is a small part of the whole person. Keep it centered on the person. Ensure the problem you identify is person-centered. Is cursing at staff a person-centered problem? For whom is it a problem? Then seek understanding. Why is the resident cursing? What are the triggers? What are the patterns? What is the problem underlying the behavior? Hunger, thirst, fear, frustration, confusion? Team up with the IDT on this. It'll take multiple perspectives to arrive at understanding. Individualized care. When we care for residents with dementia based on knowing the resident and understanding the behavior, then that care helps to preserve the dignity of the resident. It is person-centered, designed for his or her unique way of being in the world. If we limit the care plan to the problem of cursing behavior related to dementia, we miss the root cause of his or her behavior or communication, fear and confusion, as well as other manifestations of the behavior, biting, scratching, and yelling. Additionally, focusing on changing one behavior without addressing the root cause will only result in some other way for the resident to express aggression related to confusion. The outcome of her fear and confusion is her aggressive behavior. We need to include this context as it's the person's current perspective. This is where knowing the resident is necessary. We care plan symptoms so that we can help the resident who is experiencing them. We need to make sure we understand the symptom in the broad and holistic way that allows us to see the whole person more clearly so we can reduce or prevent suffering that leads to biting, scratching, yelling, or cursing at staff. Now that we understand what causes the symptom, what would be the goal? Would the goal be the absence of biting, scratching, yelling, and cursing? Or would the goal be to help the resident achieve a state of well-being that reduces the risk for those targeted behaviors? As in FTAG 248, our activity care planning should intend to enhance the highest practicable level of physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being. We might recognize enhanced well-being not only as the absence of targeted behaviors, but by the presence of positive outcomes, such as a calm affect, engagement, smiling, walking in a garden. What approaches lead the resident to a calm affect, laughter, or enjoyment? In our approaches, or our interventions, we assist residents in achieving this goal of well-being. And as a result, we've come full circle to the program design and tailoring of person-centered environments and opportunities to live holistic, engaging, relevant lives. As stated in the interpretive guidelines, person-appropriate refers to the idea that each resident has a personal identity and a history that involves more than just their medical illness or functional impairments. Activities should be relevant to the specific needs, interests, culture, background, etc. of the individual for whom they are developed. Part 8. Resources and References. Acknowledgements. I borrowed resources and ideas from some exquisite professionals in our field, so a quick thank you to Cheryl Kling, Sharon Nichols, KJ Page, Keith Saville, and Tracy Schilling. Thank you so very much for taking time to view this webinar. Thank you also for the work that you do. You make a difference in the world of the individuals we serve.